the conviction of Albert Ian Schweitzer for murder in the second degree, kidnapping, and sexual assault in the first degree is hereby vacated, and Mr. Schweitzer shall be released immediately from custody in this courtroom.
Both applause and tears in a Hilo courtroom this afternoon after Albert Ian Schweitzer was set free. Schweitzer's conviction in the 1991 murder of Dana Ireland on the Big Island overturned by a circuit court judge. Schweitzer spent 2 decades in prison for the murder, kidnapping, and rape of Ireland. He was convicted on February 16, 2000 and sentenced to life in prison. But tonight, he's a free man thanks to attorneys with the Hawaii Innocence Project who went to bat for him. On Christmas Eve in 1991, Dana Ireland was hit by a vehicle in Kapoho while riding a bicycle. She was eventually found miles away in the bushes, barely alive and partially naked. She died at the hospital the next day. She was 23 and had been visiting the Big Island from Virginia. Albert Ian Schweitzer, his brother Sean, and their friend Frank Pauline were convicted of Ireland's murder, kidnapping, and rape. Pauline was killed in prison in 2015. And Sean Schweitzer was only 16 at the time of the murder and took a deal for serving as a witness. Albert Ian Schweitzer was the only one of the 3 still in prison for Ireland's murder.
But none of the Schweitzers gave up hope that there would be a day of justice that would arise.
Attorneys went before Judge Peter Kubota in Hilo to prove that Albert Ian Schweitzer did not commit the crime, and they called upon experts to testify. They said new DNA evidence from this Jimmy Z t-shirt found near Ireland's body ruled out Schweitzer. Attorneys also said Schweitzer's conviction was based on faulty forensic science regarding a bite mark on Ireland's breast, and that Schweitzer's Volkswagen Beetle did not hit Ireland. In fact, he didn't even buy the car till months after Ireland was killed.
Therefore, it is the judgment of this court that the new DNA evidence, the tire tread evidence, the bite mark evidence, and Sean Schweitzer's recantation conclusively proves that in a new trial, a jury would likely reach a different verdict of acquittal. So therefore, the conviction of Albert Ian Schweitzer for murder in the second degree, kidnapping, and sexual assault in the first degree is hereby vacated, and Mr. Schweitzer shall be released immediately from custody in this courtroom.
Schweitzer, now a free man after being locked up for 22 years. And KITV4's Jeremy Lee joins us now with reaction to today's decision. Jeremy.
Well, Marissa, it was the Hawaii Innocence Project that challenged this case, and an advocate says, unfortunately, cases like this are representative of larger issues with the justice system, where prosecutors often rely on unreliable jailhouse informant testimony, and that a wrongful conviction is still an uphill battle to have overturned. Recounting the high-profile nature of the case, Ken Lawson of the Hawaii Innocence Project says there was intense media pressure at the time to hold someone accountable for the horrific crime. An unreliable tip came in with this case from an inmate. And once a conviction happens, Lawson says resources are often depleted for an appeal. Also disturbing the notion that the actual killer has escaped justice for all these years, while others were wrongfully convicted for the crime. For Albert Schweitzer, now comes the challenge of adjusting back into society.
I just checked him into the hotel room, and, he has no ID. I handed him my cell phone so he could use it. He doesn't know how to use an iPhone. Right? iPhones came out in 2007. He was in prison in 2000. DNA evidence showed that the Jimmy Z T-shirt that the state claimed one of the co-defendants wore did not belong to any of the 3 defendants. In fact, the only DNA found was from an unknown male. The system is slow to undo those convictions. And so the average conviction takes well over 10 years. So you can have a person that's actually innocent, but to work it all the way through the system, it's going to take years.
The Innocence Project says that the bite marks have been a faulty and unscientific measure, and in the country there have been over 80 overturned cases that have relied on bite marks as evidence. Kenneth Lawson also said this is a historic case, as it's the first time in the state of Hawaii that an integrity process was agreed upon and resulted in an overturned conviction, with prosecutors sitting down with the defense and the Innocence Project to work cooperatively. He hopes it's a trend. Now, according to the Innocence Project, jailhouse informant testimony has played a leading role in 19% of the Innocence Project's 241 exonerations and releases so far. Reporting live, Jeremy Lee, KITV4 Island News.
Jeremy, thank you. Hawaii County Prosecutor Keldon Waltgen told KITV4 tonight in a statement, "We remain committed to identifying unknown male number 1 and seeking justice for Dana Ireland and her ohana. Our office will reassess the evidence and determine our next course of action."